Welcome back, everybody. Got some more recent finds for you. First off, I've got some VCLT from DJ Trish Mullins once again. Always comes through with more of her CD mixes. And no surprise, she sent me a little card with that. And a couple of mixes here. A Step Back in Time. Trish is one of the great mix masters of the vinyl community. There's the track list there. She's warned me that these contents are full of funk and will get you up and dancing down in the soul cellar. So I'm looking forward to spinning those over the holidays, as I did last year with some of her previous mixes. Thank you once again, Trish. Always generous, always appreciated. One of the VC's very finest. So on to some finds. I'm going to kind of round up some thrift finds first of all. Thrift stores have really slowed down. I guess it's kind of not surprising. It's kind of the time of year when people are not thinking about donating stuff. They're getting ready for the holidays. But I did find a few odds and ends here, and I'm thinking this is kind of going to be more or less the last of the lot until sometime in the new year when things pick up, barring any surprises, of course. But I found this one the other day. Various Artists Compilation, the original Great Northwest Hits, Volume 1. I didn't realize this was as old as it was, early 60s when I looked it up on Discogs, on the Jordan label. This is mainly, as it says, Northwest, basically Seattle, Portland area rock and roll bands, early rock and roll. Side 1 is all instrumentals, and side 2 is mainly led off, of course, by the big hit Louie Louie by the Kingsmen. And the rest of it kind of in kind of that early 60s teen idol sound. It's good stuff there. This was a kind of a cool thrift find that brought back a bunch of memories. Space 1999 soundtrack, early 70s. Gatefold pressing there. This was, as you can probably tell, a sci-fi series that was on TV in the 1970s, before Star Wars, shortly before Star Wars came out. RCA. This is a soundtrack composed by Barry Gray. Basically, kind of score to the series with kind of this disco funk theme that kind of comes at you like a runaway freight train or spaceship in this case, and it just kind of comes out of the blue in between the more orchestral arrangements. Cool show. I used to watch this as a kid. I remember one episode absolutely scared the bejesus out of me as a kid. Sent me screaming into the kitchen to my mom. There was one about this monster that was eating people or whatever, and it was freaked the crap out of me, to put it bluntly. Another nice thrift find. Nina Simone sings Billie Holiday. Lady Sings the Blues. Came out in 1972, the same year the Lady Sings the Blues movie came out, so I'm guessing she kind of put this out to capitalize on it. Actually on the Stroud label, you can see that, which I'm sure that's her own label or set up by her husband. But just covers of mainly Billie Holiday songs, and mainly kind of not really the hugely well-known ones. Strange Fruit, of course, is on here. Huge tune, and few artists better equipped to interpret Billie Holiday's music than Nina Simone. So always happy to add her to the collection. I've only my second on vinyl by her. I'm on the lookout for more. I found a kind of disco collection in one of the thrift stores I've been going to. A lot of it I didn't know, so I kind of ended up leaving it behind. But there was a few pieces I did pick up. Nice 12-inch single on the Philadelphia International label. Dexter One Cell. I'll never forget my favorite disco, which has a kind of a female vocal chorus name-checking various cities and the prominent discos there. Starting off with Studio 54, of course, the big one. And side 2 is It's Been Cool, which has Dexter doing the vocal. Kind of more on the space funk tip on that one. Another single, classic Patrick Adams production, Musique. Keep on Jumping, backed with In the Bush. Two big ones from them. I have the LP by them. Great disco. This was a pretty nice find. Early hip hop. Same came with that disco haul. Kurtis Blow, The Breaks. Nice to see, interesting to see how that song kind of crossed over to the disco market. This 12-inch, actually all these disco ones are pretty well mint condition. I already had that tune on 12-inch, it's a little scratchy, but the interesting thing about it was it's a Jamaican sound system copy with the markings Lord Shelley sound on there. So interesting how that early hip-hop song crossed over to both the disco crowd and the reggae dance crowd. Kind of cool to see. This was the last one from the disco hall, the Duncan Sisters. Never heard of them. There's two of them, and it's kind of a neat flip cover. It's on the RCA label, 1976, 79 actually. Actually, pretty solid disco album on there. Enjoyed that one. Last thrift find, The Miracles Renaissance. 1973, gatefold pressing, very nice shape. Couple of little hairline scratches on the vinyl, but otherwise really good shape. Tamla Motown. This was their first album after Smokey Robinson stepped down from lead vocals. He's still listed as executive producer here, but all the tracks have various writers and producers. Like Leon Ware, Willie Hutch does a couple, Larry Mizell does one, Anita and Marvin Gaye have another tune on there. Just a couple of funky tunes on here, but just gorgeous, gorgeous soul ballads. It's The Miracles. Awesome. Record store find, the Walker Brothers. Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore, back with Baby You Don't Have to Tell Me. My first LP by them. That is on Smash Records, 1967, 68-ish on this one, I think. Really nice shape. Found this at one of my local stores. I'm kind of a latecomer to Walker Brothers, Scott Walker. Embarrassing confession, I once came across a Scott Walker solo LP in a thrift store. Actually the same town where I found this. I didn't know who he was. I was kind of fiddling around with my phone trying to figure it out. Baroque pop was kind of the only kind of tag that I came up with. Didn't really mean much to me at the time. And before I could kind of figure out whether I was going to keep it or not, this guy walked up and basically talked me into letting him have it. And found out later he's a record dealer. I've run into him a few times. Got a few online purchases, kind of unusual for me, but as the records I'm looking for kind of dried up, it may be something I do more of in the future. So we've got some Discogs ones. This is one I've been looking for a long time. Only seen it once in the wild, and somebody snatched it up just as I was walking up to the bins. Buffy St. Marie, Illuminations. I've shown her before. Native American folk singer, activist. This is her 6th album from 1969, famously psychedelic. Black Vanguard label, very excellent condition. Actually got this from a seller not all that far away from me, just a little bit further up the coast. So I've been looking out for this one. She added a lot of electronic effects to this one, so she's got kind of distorted vocals and her guitar and just trippy stuff in with the folk. Cool album. Of course, if I'm going to be ordering something from a seller, I'm going to try and order more than one thing to kind of maximize the shipping or spread it out to ease the pain. But, so I got a few from this one guy. Dennis Coffey, Detroit Guitar Band, Evolution, Funk Classic. Sussex label, excellent condition here. Of course, it's got Scorpio, the classic cop show funk type tune, heavily sampled in hip hop. Had one other Discogs order come in. Showed Clara Nunez in a previous video. Got another one by her. This is a slightly earlier one from 1973, self-titled, Brazilian press on Odeon. Beautiful condition, includes the insert there. Just a gorgeous cover. Got this for a really good price too. And Brazil pressings. Even got a label from, I guess, some record store in Rio de Janeiro. AV Copacabana. cool samba record there. Got a couple of reggae ones to fill out that particular order off Discogs. Never heard of this one, but it looked kind of intriguing. Kind of plain cover art. This is from 1981 UK pressing on the Kingdom label. This is a Roy Cousins various artists compilation. Roy Cousins was kind of the member and lead singer of a group called the Royals. Did a classic album called Pick Up the Pieces, and then set out to set himself up as a producer, producing other artists, producing his own records. And 1981 compilation here. Kind of the most probably the biggest name here is Cornell Campbell. There's also the famous percussionist Noel Scully Sims, DJ Joss Stitch. Kind of a mix of roots and lovers rock here. A few real nice tunes on this. Kind of like say plain cover, but decent music. Roy Cousins' productions are always kind of special to me. He always seems to put a little extra love and just care into his into everything he releases, and that's definitely the vibe I get from this one. Just harticle music, they call it. Dub album, Prince Jammy versus King Tubby. It's not really a competition thing, but that was kind of how they build records in those days. This came out in the early 80s, 1980, I think. This is a somewhat later, late 80s pressing. Sky Juice label. These are Jawwash rhythms. Jawwash was a reggae DJ, and these are just dubs to some of his productions, mixed variously by King Tubby's or some of the apprentices working under him. Prince Jammy. Some heavy roots dub here. Very excellent stuff. Got this one by Augustus Pablo, Thriller. This is a very early LP by him. Kind of one you don't hear about a whole lot. 1975 this originally came out, produced by Enos MacLeod. And this is a 1980 pressing from the UK on the Echo label. So just Augustus Pablo, melodica instrumentals. In kind of his early days here. I think this was right before King Tubby meets the Rockers Uptown, which sent his career on an upward spiral. And that kind of Far East sound, not quite yet in place here. The rhythms are from a little bit earlier time. Had that one on CD for quite a while. It's nice to have it on vinyl. And last one I'm going to show today, another reggae one from the great DJ Yellowman. One Yellowman. It's actually billed to Yellowman and Fathead. This is from 1982 on the Hitbound label, classic label from the Channel 1 studio, produced by Jojo Hookham, one of the Hookham brothers who founded the Channel 1 studio that absolutely dominated kind of the late 70s and into the 80s. Yellowman was one of the great dance hall DJs or Jamaican rappers, born Winston Foster. He was educated at the famous Alpha Boys School, where many of the greatest musicians in Jamaica came from, the scat members of the Scatolites and so on. He's from a later generation. He was born an albino with kind of what they call a yellow complexion in Jamaica, and kind of the color coding that they would do. So he named himself Yellowman. Now this status where the darker complexion is kind of at the lower end of the social scale and the lighter complexions at their higher, left him as kind of a persona non grata in Jamaican society. Things could have been fairly grim for him in life. So when he set out to become a reggae artist, a dance hall reggae artist, what did he do? Through sheer force of personality and his DJing skills, he positioned himself as kind of a sex symbol. "I'm Mad Over Me" was one of his signature hits, talking about how all the girls were crazy over him. And through sheer force of personality, he succeeded. Put out a lot of albums in the early 80s. Was absolutely at the top of the game. Just dominated the dance hall scene. In these early days, he was in partnership with another DJ called Fathead. They released several albums together before kind of going their separate ways. But Yellowman was the clear star. He does the main bulk of the DJing, with Fathead kind of doing the backup and interjects, kind of call and response interjections. Fathead, unfortunately, was heavily involved in the drug scene, was murdered in Miami in 1988, though he and Yellowman had gone their separate ways more or less a few years before. Yellowman, later on in the 80s, had various health scares. He had cancer in his jaw. At one point, I think he was given 6 months to live. He is still with us, still doing well. So, great album from here. Iconic cover of the time. One Yellowman. I think I have one or two of these songs on 12-inch single. So that's what I've got for you today, guys. I'm kind of thinking this is going to be my last video before the holidays. So if I don't get a chance to speak to everybody before then, I want to wish everybody in the vinyl community a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all the best of the season, and thanks to everyone who has watched, commented, subscribed. I appreciate all of you, and cheers, and take care, guys.